Hello board game brothers and sisters, and welcome to another huge episode where we'll be going over campaigns launching this week. We have a few giveaways at the end of the episode as well, so make sure to stay tuned for that. Make sure to also sign up to our Discord in the description below because it's the best Discord in the universe and you can find more info on all of these games and even campaigns further into the future. I've been doing this for over a year now and I haven't missed a week yet, so don't forget to also smash that like button because with every like, a non-board gamer discovers their gateway game. Now that you've done your good deed for the day, let's check out the Kickstarters. And on March 1st, we have Eternal Palace, and this plays 1 to 5 players and takes about 60 to 90 minutes to play. And this is a medium weight dice placement Euro game designed by Stephen Aramani, who designed games like Sprawlopolis, Circle the Wagons, and Groves. And Eternal Palace is a competitive game where players are trying to impress the Emperor by rebuilding the palace after a devastating earthquake. Players will use their team of worker dice to rebuild different monuments across the board. These different areas will only be reachable depending on your dice, but if your opponent reaches an area that you couldn't, you can also pay fish to join them there as well. Players will gain favor for their overall efforts and contributions to these monuments, and players can also collect resources and different painting pieces to complete layer by layer into a recollection of your achievements. Whoever impresses the Emperor the most wins the game. And the next campaign launching on the 1st is So You've Been Eaten, and this takes 30 minutes to play and plays 0 to 2 players, which basically means that if it sits on your shelf, it still counts as being played. In So You've Been Eaten, there is a miner and a beast. The miner wins by collecting 8 different crystals, but the beast wins by fully digesting the miner by attacking with matching bacteria. If the miner passes through the beast system undigested, then the player with the most points wins, but if you ask me, that's more of a lose-lose situation. The 0 player count is just a smart aleck way of saying that both sides can be played by a bot, and this game uses mechanisms like action point, dice rolling, hand management, set collection, and variable player powers. Also on the 1st, we have Theurgy, which plays 2 to 6 players and takes 60 to 180 minutes to play. And in this game, players are competing to become the most renowned god. There are 3 ways to achieve this, and they all include building a number of temples based on the player count. The first way is to become the official faith by building all the temples, including one in the capital. Or you can fulfill your calling by adding 1 additional temple and achieving your secret objective. Or you can win by spreading across the land, which can be done by building 2 additional temples to the original amount. To build the temples, you'll be using 4 actions to move acolytes, build settlements, perform miracles, or summon monsters. And you'll also cause catastrophic events to see which god the people turn to. And if that god is you, they'll build a temple in your honor, and if not, they'll cast your existing temple into ruins. This game is low luck and heavy with confrontational player interaction, and the game uses mechanisms and features like area majority, card drafting, hand management, a modular board, take that, variable player powers, and variable setup. This is one that looked really neat to me, but I was initially cautious about it because it's co-designed by 2 first-time designers. But after taking a look at the ratings tab, I was really impressed with the reviews there from playtesters, and I've heard some really positive comments from other creators. Definitely give this one a look. You can get notified by visiting the link in the description below. And now on the 2nd, we have Silverwood Grove, which plays 1 to 6 players and takes about 30 to 40 minutes to play. And this is a game where players are competing to create the most valuable woodland village. At the start of the game, each player chooses their character and player board from the 12 available. On a player's turn, they can play up to 5 actions by using the turn phase token that must be rotated to the desired action. Players can grow and collect resources, hire and promote employees, build and upgrade locations, research and develop their tribes, or upgrade their characters. Gaining resources is marked on your player board and can be used to purchase locations and employees from the market of cards that's available to all players. These cards offer victory points and upgradable abilities for you to use throughout the game. Finding synergies in these cards will be the key to gaining advantage over your opponents and winning the game. The game plays over 10 rounds, and the player with the most points at the end of the game wins. And also on the 2nd, we have Uranus, and this plays 3 to 6 players and takes about 45 to 60 minutes to play. In this game, players are rulers of their own lesser-known moon of Uranus. Your people have been living peacefully underground to protect themselves from the gases on the surface, but increasing asteroid activity is threatening life on your moon. This is a cooperative game where players must work together to build infrastructures and develop technologies that will protect you from the asteroids while you flee to the main planet before the moons are destroyed. But players are not completely helpless because each ruler also has access to their own unique special power that must be used carefully to protect themselves and their neighboring moons throughout the game. Each round is played over 4 phases that's played simultaneously for each phase. Phase 1 is the asteroid attack, which can leave areas of your moon inaccessible. Phase 2 is the mine and transport, where players can generate moon rocks to move them to new locations. Phase 3 is the use and remove phase, where players can use groups of their moon rocks towards completing various projects like building mines, tunnels, launch pads, or fortifications, or loading up their gun to take on those pesky asteroids, or contributing towards developing new technologies. And Phase 4 is the build and activate phase, where completed projects can be built on your moon, ready for use. The players win when all the players have discovered spaceship technology, constructed habitation modules, and moved to Uranus. And this one's going to be my pick of the week. And the reason I'm picking this one is because it does look like a pretty fun little co-op game with a very unique and entertaining theme. But I'm also picking this one because I do have a history with this game. Many of you may not know this, but I actually do a little bit of board game design of my own, and I had entered one of my designs into the 2020 Board Game Workshop Design Contest. And if any of you are interested in designing a game, I definitely recommend entering into this contest. It's a very helpful one, and it's also one of the bigger contests. I think there was over 120 games submitted just for this last year's contest. But during the contest, I was also assessing my competition and reviewing some of the other designers' games, and Uranus is one that really stood out to me. And this isn't a first design by this designer. She actually designed quite a lot of games, but this is just the first one that she's bringing to Kickstarter. And if you take a look at her website and her games, you can tell that a lot of care has been put into these, and it gives some of those big publishers a run for their money. There isn't a lot of ratings or reviews on the Board Game Geek page, but I still have a lot of confidence in this game because of her track record, and also because she was a finalist in the Board Game Workshop contest that I'd mentioned. And you don't really enter your games into these contests to get some flashy prize. Usually you don't even get anything if you win, and a lot of them you actually have to pay to enter. The real reason for entering these contests is because you're getting eyes on your game. And a lot of the people reviewing your game are actually other designers, many of them very prolific in the board game industry. You get a ton of feedback in these contests, and they also give you a little bit of time to iterate on your game in between the different rounds. I love seeing other designers put their games into contests like these because it is a lot of work, and just the fact that they're doing it shows to me that they have those values, that they're just trying to improve on their game, and they're also taking other people's feedback, which is really important because you're designing the game for other people, not just for yourself. And a little fun fact is that this designer also has a YouTube channel of her own that she's having fun with, and she goes over some of her own designs as well as other games that she likes. And I'll leave a link to that right up here. And another fun fact is that the pronunciation of Uranus was actually changed to Uranus back in 1986 when the Voyager 2 space probe was preparing to do its flyby past the planet. I guess newscasters from around the country realized that 3 weeks of saying Uranus just would never work, especially when also tossing in a reference to a deep space probe.
I'm sorry, Fry, but astronomers renamed Uranus in 2620 to end that stupid joke once and for all.
Oh, what's it called now?
Urectum.
Moving on, also on the second, we have Caper Europe, which plays 2 players and takes 25 to 35 minutes to play. And this is a game where players are competing criminal masterminds who will use drafting, set collection, and area control to steal the most valuable items from across Europe. Players take turns sending out thieves to famous locations using special card powers to gain control. Players can also enhance their thieves by giving them special gear to help them with their break-ins and burglary. Some thieves are more proficient with certain gear than others, so you'll want to be mindful with your distribution. Winning locations, collecting stolen goods, and equipping thieves with their preferred gear will all gain you points. Whoever has the most points at the end of 6 rounds wins the game. Also on the second, we have Meeples Monsters, which plays 2 to 4 players and takes about 45 to 90 minutes to play. The peaceful city of Rowan is surrounded by dangerous monsters. It's up to the citizens to train their warriors, clerics, knights, and mages, fortify their walls, and defend the city. Meeples Monsters is an engine bag building worker placement by the designer Ollie Steines, who is known for designing the champions of Midgard games. On a player's turn, they draw meeples from their bag to perform actions on the board. These actions include upgrading your meeple, adding new meeples to your bag, fighting monsters, investigating towers, or upgrading the town, which unlocks more options in the future. Workers start as peasants, but can be upgraded to more powerful warriors, clerics, knights, and mages. This is going to be needed to complete certain quests and take down stronger monsters. There are also several corrupted meeples that are in your bag, which is going to slow your efforts when pulled. At the end of the player's turn, all the meeples they drew are put into their lodging part of the player board, which acts as a discard pile like you'd see in your typical deck builder. Players score points throughout the game by defeating monsters, completing quests, and investigating these towers, and at the end of the game, they can gain more points by fighting boss monsters and completing endgame quests. The player with the most victory points at the end of the game wins. Next on the second, we have Oil Town, which plays 1 to 4 players and takes 45 to 60 minutes to play. And this is a competitive card-driven dice placement where you take on the roles of pioneers in the Wild West, drilling for oil to strike it rich. Players will place their oil well cards at the start of the game and then draw cards depicting underground drill tunnels. These tunnels can be pieced together like a puzzle to connect the different paths. But these paths won't be complete because players will need to roll dice and then place those dice in the gaps to complete the path and create a route for that precious oil to get to the surface. Any leftover dice after that can be used to activate special abilities on helper cards. This game gives optional modes for positive and confrontational player interaction and also features some unique hand-painted watercolor art. Next on the second, we have The Gift of Tulips, and this plays 1 to 6 players and takes about 20 minutes to play. And in this game, players explore Amsterdam's Tulip Festival to build colorful bouquets. Each turn, players can draw a tulip card and then take an action, and then they draw another card and then take a different action. Players can choose between keeping a tulip in their bouquet to score major points at the end of the game, or they can give tulips to other players to get points immediately, or they can place tulips into the festival to determine how many points each type of tulip is worth for players holding the most of that type at the end of the game. Cards can be added to the festival face up or face down to be revealed at game end. The game ends when the entire tulip deck is depleted and the player with the most points wins. Also on the second, we have Clash of Ardennes, which plays 2 players and takes about 30 to 90 minutes. And this takes place during the Battle of the Bulge, which is one of the toughest battles in World War II. And this is a strategy game where players are going to be taking the role of either the Allied or the Axis forces, competing to obtain their goal, which is described on the objective cards, which were drawn at the start of the game. Players will place units on one of the 7 streets strategically to reach their goal, and players will have to spend these units wisely because they will run out of them very quickly. Also on the second, we have Moonshell, a mermaid game, and this plays 1 to 4 players and takes about 20 to 30 minutes to play. And in this game, players play as mermaids collecting shells and building patterns for points. On a player's turn, they rotate a central board and pull seashells towards them, refilling the board from the opposite side. Players will then add these shells to their treasure chest to form patterns and complete their objective cards, using their individual player powers to their advantage as they play the game. The final round is triggered when one player completely fills up their treasure chest and players complete the round and then score up their points, and the player with the most points wins the game. And the next game, also launching on the second, is Fortunes in Famine, and this plays 2 to 6 players and takes about 30 to 90 minutes to play. And in this game, players are kings of growing kingdoms, attempting to store more grain in 12 rounds than their opposing kings. To do that, players are going to have to spend silver to bid on workers, which are then used to produce unique goods or services in their kingdom. Players will be growing more and more grain, and you can store as much of your grain as you want for a single silver coin. This incentivizes players to keep their grain growing as long as possible. But this can be risky because famine cards will begin showing up with increasing regularity throughout the game, which will wipe out a lot of the grain that you haven't stored. Each player also has a queen card that grants unique player powers, and players can also gain evil wizard cards that can be used to slow down some of the other players that you think are just doing too well. This game also uses mechanisms like auction bidding, card drafting, deck construction, hand management, and different worker types. Also on the second, we have Hojo Pojo, which plays 2 to 6 players and takes about 15 to 30 minutes to play. And this is a party game where players cook and eat as much food as possible before the dipping sauce runs out. You'll need tongs and a ladle to cook your ingredients, and then you'll need bowls to contain your food. You'll get to roll your dice for each bowl that you complete, and if you roll a matching color with an ingredient in your cooking area, you gain a dipping sauce card. The sauciest player wins the game. Next on the second, we have Doomlings, which plays 2 to 6 players and takes about 20 to 45 minutes to play. And this is a game where players are developing their species before their doomed planet collapses. Players will be collecting different traits from a deck to add to their gene pool. These traits have a wide variety of abilities and bonuses, and your hand size represents your gene pool, which can be increased or decreased throughout the game. Each round, an event or rule is drawn from the age deck, which causes chaos throughout the game. Players will be playing their cards into a trait deck, which causes effects and gains points. The player with the most points at the end of the final age wins the game. And the last game launching on the second is a relaunch for Take the Kingdom, and this takes about 20 to 30 minutes to play and plays 2 to 4 players, but this will be coming with a new expansion that will also be adding a solo mode. In this game, each player starts with a fort and some land, which they can fortify with walls, moats, battlements, hills, archers, knights, and traps. And using cards in the deck, players will be attacking their opponents and defending their own kingdom. Last player standing wins the game. And now on March 4th, we have 5G, and this plays 2 to 4 players and takes about 45 to 120 minutes to play. And in this game, players take on the roles of their favorite corporate communication giants, competing to obtain the greatest wealth. Players will be using their workers to carry out actions like R&D, as well as purchasing, upgrading, and implementing strategies to serve the needs of 5G orders in different regions of the world. After that, players will be producing and placing 5G stations, gaining resources, and selecting 5G order cards, which will finally allow them to launch projects based on the actions taken earlier. The game ends when all players have completed 10 level 4 5G orders, and the player with the most money wins. And on March 5th, we have High Noon, and this plays 2 to 6 players and takes about 60 to 120 minutes to play. And in High Noon, players control different posses competing for dominance in the Wild West. The game system requires no dice at all, and all movement and actions are baked into the cards, character sheets, and outlined in the 3 phases of each turn. The first phase is the movement phase, where all characters can move up to their speed. Next is the action phase, where all characters may perform 1 action, and then the third phase, players draw 3 cards. And there's 3 types of cards that you can draw. There's the basic and special cards from your posse deck, and then the loot cards from your loot deck. Basic cards can have attack and defense values, and special cards will also have those values, but will also have some instruction on when and how to play them. When combat does occur in the game, it's simply resolved by subtracting the defense number of the defender's card from the attack number on the attacker's card. Loot cards are drawn when a character reaches a loot crate, and these are strategically placed across the board and have the ability to give players valuable supplies, medicines, firepower, and other ways to give them advantages over their opponents. Gold is awarded throughout the game by how much damage and mayhem is dealt in a shootout, and the victory goes to the player with the most gold at the end of 12 rounds. Alternatively, players can play in a last man standing type of game, where they continue to fight until only one posse remains. And I also want to mention that there was a big campaign that launched last week that I didn't end up covering because I didn't have an exact date for it at the time. But that's Aeons End Legacy of Gravehold, and you can check it out on Kickstarter now. I know it's a game that a lot of people love, and there's a lot of content for it, and it's been around for a while. So if that sounds interesting to you, all the info can be found on the campaign page now, so I'll leave a link to that in the description below. And I just want to take a second here and mention that if you like this sort of content and you want to join in on the fun, definitely subscribe to this channel because we do these every week. I also want to make a quick shout out to our sponsor, Kickstartergames.com, and they offer a wide selection of games, and any purchases made there, a small percentage will come back and help this channel. These little things help me to keep this channel running and also allow me to cover all the Kickstarters, big or small, because I'm not incentivized by whoever's going to pay me the most, because I don't take any money from publishers. Because I do offer a lot of value to these publishers, many of them have offered me free games in return, but instead of me ever accepting these games, I've always just given them away as giveaways on the channel and give them back to all of you. This is now something that I've baked into the channel and we do every week. And more recently, I've also been offering giveaways on the Discord as well, which you can go ahead and join in the description below. And the first giveaway we have this week is a premium edition of Orconomics 2nd edition. And Orconomics is a game that uses a round board that's split into 10 different industries, and players are going to be competing to build companies in these various industries. At the start of each round, dice are rolled, and the industry matching the value of the dice gets activated along with its 2 adjacent industries. Industries all have their own different power, and when an industry gets activated, it comes into effect for the players that have a company built in that industry. Players can build a company very quickly in these different industries by having the winning bid on a location, or they can take a bit of a longer route by starting a startup there that will eventually grow into a full company. And this giveaway is going to be for the premium edition, which comes with the core game along with some upgrades like some really nice plastic tokens to represent your companies. This edition also makes some really nice updates and improvements from the previous first edition. And to enter this giveaway, just leave a comment down below with the hashtag ORC and let us know that if you were to invest $10,000 into any company of your choice, which company would you choose? For me, I'm super interested to see what happens with Beyond Meat. I am not a vegetarian or a vegan, but I'm also totally cool eating Beyond Meat burgers. So if it's more sustainable, tastes good, and is better for the animals, more of that is definitely a good thing. And the next giveaway we have is for Factory Floor, and this is a polyomino tile placement game where players are going to be putting different polyominoes to build out their factory lines, and then put different workers on those polyominoes in order to maintain their production. At the end of each round, there's a production phase where players will score points based on how much they produced. And this giveaway is going to be for a base pledge that comes with the core game and all unlocked stretch goals. And to enter this giveaway, just leave a comment down below with the hashtag factory and let us know if you could have a factory of your own, what would you want it to produce? For me, it would definitely be a cheesecake factory. There are a lot of giveaways last week, so I'm just going to put all the winners on the screen now, and 2 of those giveaways were on Discord, so if you're watching this video early enough, there might still actually be some time to get in on those giveaways before it auto-draws the winner. So definitely check out the Discord in the description below. There's also a lot of other value that Discord offers, and you won't regret it. And that's it for this week. Until next time, keep that shelf cluttered and the table full.